Welcome back to the deep dive. So if you're listening to this and you're maybe sitting in front of a dashboard or you're juggling, I don't know, 3 major change requests or you're just deep in the logs.
Trying to figure out why that one script failed.
Exactly. The one script that worked perfectly yesterday but has decided to just take today off. If that's you, then you are exactly who we want to talk to today.
Yeah.
We're going to be diving into the really profound meaning that's hiding behind all of that operational chaos.
It's so easy to get lost in it. You know, just the sheer ticket count. You start to think of all IT work, the firefighting, the endless patching, the change freezes as just, well, reactive.
Really reactive, yeah.
But today, we want to try and translate that daily grind into something far more enduring, something structured, with, I think, some deep philosophical value to it.
We're putting on our architect's gloves today. We're going to introduce a really powerful and enduring metaphor. It's the idea of Solomon's Temple as the framework for your entire organization.
And that sounds grand. But in modern terms, what we're really saying is this temple represents the entire service value system, or SVS, of the organization.
So what exactly is the SVS, for anyone who might not be living and breathing that term?
Well, think of the SVS as the master blueprint. It's the entire interconnected system.
Right.
It's all the people, the organizational structure, all the processes, the tech.
Everything.
Everything. All the value streams that have to work together to co-create value for your customer. It really is the grand edifice that represents the business itself.
And crucially, this structure, this edifice, it doesn't just stand on, arbitrary decisions or temporary fixes. It has to be built on these fixed foundational principles. And our sources establish these as 3 foundational pillars that this whole thing rests on, and they are wisdom, strength, and beauty.
And every single piece of work you do, every commit you make, every configuration setting you tweak, every incident you resolve, it has to align with one or more of those pillars.
So break that down. Wisdom.
Wisdom is the pillar to contrive and design the elegant solution. Then you have strength, which is all about ensuring the foundation is robust, secure, and will endure.
And beauty, that one seems a bit abstract for IT.
It does, but it's about the specialized function and precision. It's the elegance and the functional completeness that makes a service valuable and, appealing to use.
Okay, so the mission we're tackling today it's unique. And frankly, it's a little daunting. This modern temple is what our sources are calling a spiritual edifice.
Right. It's not physical stone. It's based on knowledge, on principles, on shared standards.
Exactly. But unlike the ancient structure, which, was eventually finished and then later destroyed, our SVS temple has this unique and honestly terrifying requirement.
Which is?
It has to remain perpetually available and functional. It can never, ever truly be finished.
That's the key. It's in a state of perpetual construction. It's always being driven by continual improvement. And that demands that all the specialists we're about to look at.
The artificers, the intendants, the master.
All of them. They have to apply a fixed discipline to a system that is, by its very nature, constantly in motion. So let's unpack the first role. This is maybe the most stressful one, the ultimate assurance policy.
Let's do it. So we're going to begin with the professionals who are responsible for the ultimate safety net. We're talking about the backup and recovery specialist. And it's a role that, let's be honest, often toils in total obscurity until the moment of catastrophe, and then boom, suddenly they are the most important people in the entire enterprise.
They absolutely are. And in our architectural metaphor, you're not laying bricks or carving stone.
Yeah.
You are the guardian of the holy vessels. You are the protector of the Ark of the Covenant.
That's a really powerful way to frame it.
Well, think about the spiritual weight of the Ark in the original temple. It housed the sacred documents, the original covenant. So in our modern SVS, what's the most sacred component?
It has to be the data.
It's the data. It represents the entire history of the organization, the contracts, the transactions, all the intellectual property. The Guardian's entire focus is on ensuring the survival and, this is the critical part, the restoration of that treasure.
Right. So their core job is service continuity. It's not about running the system day to day.
No, not at all.
It's about providing that absolute ironclad guarantee that when something goes horribly wrong, human error, a malicious attack, a natural disaster, or just a major system bug, when that demolishes the structure,
the system can rise again. The scope here is what we call service continuity management. It's all about business impact analysis, risk assessment, designing recovery strategies. It's a proactive job that is focused entirely on mitigating existential threats.
It's the highest form of preparedness, really.
Yeah,
and the success of this management, it's judged by 2 frankly, terrifying acronyms that govern every single crisis response. RTO and RPO. I think we should spend some real time defining the philosophical difference here.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So the recovery time objective, or RTO, is, well, it's pretty straightforward. How fast do we have to rebuild the system and make it functional again?
Okay, that's about speed.
It's about speed. Now, the recovery point objective, RPO, that's far more complex philosophically. It defines how much data loss the business can actually tolerate.
So not how fast you recover, but from what point in time you're recovering to.
Exactly. It's the maximum age of the data we can restore.
Yeah.
Can we tolerate losing 15 minutes of transactions? 4 hours?
Yeah.
Or does it have to be 0?
And I think the operational challenge there is just immense because setting RPO and RTO is always this negotiation between business risk and, well, technological reality.
The trade-off, always.
A business leader might demand an RPO of 0, but to get that, you need synchronously replicated infrastructure across multiple geographies. And that is enormously expensive and introduces all this technical complexity and latency.
Precisely. Your RTO often dictates your architecture. If you need a sub-5-minute recovery, you're probably looking at a hot standby infrastructure, not restoring from tape.
Sure.
But RTO, that governs your storage commitment. If you can only afford to lose a few seconds of data, you have to employ continuous data protection. And this is where the discipline of fidelity comes into really sharp focus. You are literally promising the integrity of your organization's history.
And the core insight here, something any seasoned pro just knows in their bones, is that backups don't matter. What matters is recovery.
Oh, absolutely.
A backup file sitting somewhere in a cloud storage bucket means absolutely nothing if the recovery process itself is flawed or untested or just too slow to meet the RTO.
The true test of faith in your entire system is that recovery drill. It's a lot like the profound commitment of the ancient Masons. Even when they were exiled for 70 years, they kept the faith. They maintained the promise to rebuild.
So your daily work as a backup specialist is maintaining that same promise?
It is. You're anticipating a future crisis and ensuring you can deliver on the integrity of the data when that day comes.
But I have to ask, for the person who's listening right now and is maybe just running daily verification reports, how do they connect that ancient promise to the modern reality of, storage quotas and vendor lock-in? The philosophy can sometimes crash into the reality of technical debt.
It connects through one simple principle, the non-strategy principle. Hope is explicitly not a strategy in continuity management.
Hope is not a strategy. I love that.
Technical debt is the enemy of fidelity. If your restore procedures haven't been tested end-to-end, if the environment you restore into isn't configured with exact nicety, you're just relying on hope, and the edifice will fall.
So the commitment has to be to disciplined, continuous testing.
And validation. That's how you manage technical debt in this critical area. You essentially test it into submission.
And this is where the technical nuance of modern systems becomes so crucial, right? The need for defense in depth. Because people so often confuse high availability with disaster recovery. They think, oh, we've replicated everything, we're fine.
This is a critical error. We have to stress this difference. Replication and redundancy are not the same as recoverability.
They solve different problems.
Totally different. Redundancy, like clustering or load balancing, that's about keeping the lights on right now if a single component fails. And replication, that copies your live data instantly. But if a sophisticated ransomware attack encrypts your entire production database, or if a zero-day bug just corrupts your transactional log,
that corrupted data is instantly replicated across your highly redundant cluster.
Exactly. You've just successfully replicated the disaster.
Wow.
The only thing that provides true recoverability is an isolated, immutable, tested copy of your data that lets you roll back to a point in time before the disaster struck, often stored in a separate geographical domain or maybe even an air-gapped environment.
So the guardian of the sacred treasure understands that their job is to protect the organization, not just from failure, but from itself.
From propagating its own errors. That's separation. That's the key to fulfilling the promise of restoration.
Okay, so let's transition now. We've gone from protecting the very existence of the temple to actually building the structure itself, providing that fundamental support system. We're talking about the infrastructure and platform management specialists. They are the artisans responsible for all the foundational components, both physical and virtual.
This is the role that directly provides the pillar of strength. I mean, if the foundation is shaky or inconsistent or just poorly maintained, The entire service value system is compromised from the ground up.
And in the temple metaphor, these are the workers in the quarry of Tyre and the forests of Lebanon. They're the ones sourcing and preparing the raw materials, the wood, the stone, the metals.
In modern operational terms, their scope is, it's about procuring, configuring, and maintaining the core IT infrastructure. So your physical servers, storage arrays, the network topology, hypervisors, the operating systems.
The bedrock.
It is the bedrock. They are the guarantors of the underlying capacity and stability for everything else that gets built on top.
What's really fascinating about the original construction process is the emphasis on what the sources call the practice of precision. The builders realized that the job site itself was too sacred, and probably just too busy, for chaotic construction.
Right.
So the foundational materials were actually prepared off-site.
So no hammering and chiseling at the gates of the temple.
Exactly. And this just directly parallels modern configuration management, doesn't it?
No, absolutely. It's the same principle. We prepare our materials, our servers, our networks in development, or in staging, or in dedicated build pipelines. We ensure that our infrastructure components arrive at the live production environment, pre-configured, pre-tested, and ready to fit together with what the sources call exact nicety.
I love that phrase, exact nicety.
It's great. And it eliminates the chaos of manual configuration in production. It gets rid of the inevitable configuration drift that causes so much instability. You just don't want to discover a networking mismatch during a high-stakes midnight deployment.
No, you do not. And that need for flawless conformity leads us right to this concept of the perfect ashlar.
The perfect ashlar. So that's the stone that's been cut perfectly square and true, ready for its purpose. In IT, it's the reliable, well-maintained configuration item, the CI.
So a CI could be a server, a VM, a container runtime.
A network segment, anything. It's documented, it's standardized, and it performs exactly as specified. This commitment to the perfect ashlar means building with regularity and propriety, making sure every single component meets the highest standard of structural integrity.
Okay, but here's the challenge for our listener who's working right now. The perfect ashlar was designed for stone, right? A fixed physical object. Our modern infrastructure is increasingly mutable, or maybe it's defined by its immutability through code. How does this philosophical weight apply when you're managing hundreds of Kubernetes clusters?
That's a great question, and I think that's where the power of the metaphor actually deepens. If you're managing a traditional system, where you're manually patching and upgrading CIs, maintaining that ashlar is a constant manual struggle against configuration drift.
It requires immense vigilance.
Immense. But in the modern cloud-native world, the ashlar is achieved through code. Tools like Terraform or CloudFormation, those are our modern chisels. They enforce the ashlar principle by making the infrastructure immutable.
So you don't fix the server.
You don't fix it. You destroy the old imperfect one and you provision a brand new perfect one from the code blueprint. The discipline shifts from manual maintenance to maintaining the perfection of the blueprint itself.
That's a powerful translation of the concept. So the discipline that's required to manage these thousands of building blocks, physical or virtual, is really underpinned by some very detailed IT disciplines.
Absolutely. Two critical disciplines here guarantee the strength. First is meticulous IT asset management. You have to know the state, the location, and the life cycle of every single component.
And this isn't just about controlling costs, though that's obviously important.
No, it's about control over your foundation. If you lose track of which components are running unsupported software, or which ones are about to reach their end of life, you are actively introducing structural weakness into the temple.
Okay, so that's the first discipline. What's the second?
Second is ensuring the size of the structure actually matches the foundation. That's capacity and performance management.
Yeah.
This is where you prevent the catastrophic failure that happens when you scale an application beyond what the ground beneath it can actually support. Rigorous capacity management is what guarantees the strength. And in the age of elasticity and auto-scaling, this means forecasting usage, ensuring your cloud account limits are adequate, and configuring your scaling policies correctly.
So you can't just build one big pillar anymore.
No, you have to engineer a foundation that can expand and contract safely, bearing loads that are constantly shifting. The job of the infrastructure manager is to make the foundation so strong, so reliable, and so well planned that no one, from the application designer to the end user, ever even has to think about the ground beneath their feet.
That resilience, that's true strength.
That is true strength.
Okay, so we've secured the sacred treasure, which is the data. And we've built the structure with enduring strength, the infrastructure. Now we move inward to the specialized layer that provides function, utility, and that critical third pillar of beauty.
right? The application specialist. This is the professional who possesses that deep, narrow expertise. We're talking about the specialized coders, the integration architects, the database administrators who are focused on really specific, complex systems like DB2 or high-throughput message queues.
So they are the chief artificers.
They're the chief artificers, the engravers, the adorners. They're not laying the basic stone. They're engraving the specialized ornaments and crafting the precious vessels that define the temple's unique purpose and function.
Their core scope is software development and service design. They're the ones creating that sophisticated business logic, the specific functions, the interfaces, the algorithms that enable the customer to co-create value.
Exactly. Without their specialized application, all that foundational infrastructure is nothing more than a very powerful, highly available, and ultimately a useless metal box.
Yeah.
I mean, take the example from our sources of the highly specialized DB2 systems administrator. They aren't just managing hardware. They are safeguarding the core information systems architecture and the crucial operational data structure itself. They ensure the intricate workings at the very heart of the service run with absolute functional precision. That is where beauty manifests.
When we talk about beauty here, it's so easy to think of, a nice user interface. But the source material seems to imply something much, much deeper than that. The design imperative.
It is much deeper. The ultimate test of their work is utility and elegance. Beauty, in this context, is the elegant efficiency and the functional completeness of the solution they build.
So the application has to meet these fundamental criteria. It has to be fit for purpose, fit for use.
Exactly. Is it designed correctly to execute the business process? That's fit for purpose. And then is it intuitive, reliable, and usable by the people who actually need it? That's fit for use. A system can be functionally perfect, but if the interface is unusable, it provides no value. It lacks beauty.
So the artificer then has to master these advanced cognitive disciplines to get to that level of functional elegance. It requires more than just knowing a language or a database.
Oh, much more. It demands systems thinking.
Yeah.
You have to understand how a tiny change in one microservice is going to affect the data pipeline and the downstream customer experience.
And it also requires design thinking.
Yes. Making sure the solution isn't just technically sound, but that it actually meets the emotional, the logistical, and the workflow needs of all the stakeholders. You just cannot operate in a silo when you're crafting these precious vessels.
And to handle all this intricate complexity, the interdependencies, the specialized logic, the sources refer to the necessity of precision, and they symbolize it with the slide rule. Why that ancient tool?
Because the complexity of a modern application, its architecture, its interfaces, its internal logic, is, and I'm quoting here, addressing the great problem presented by the universe.
That's a heavy concept.
It is. And dealing with that level of complexity demands absolute reasoned calculation. The slide rule just represents the need for exact methodology over guesswork. When you're writing business logic, one misplaced conditional statement, one incorrect calculation for interest rates, or one faulty security setting.
The ornament shatters. The whole business transaction is compromised.
Exactly. So if you're an application specialist right now and you're dealing with a difficult integration or debugging some really complex business logic, that's your philosophical moment. You are calibrating an essential, complex, and beautiful ornament in the structure.
And this requires active collaboration. The sources really emphasize the need to understand the interfaces between these different roles.
It's crucial. The application specialist has to know exactly how their beauty is going to interact with the infrastructure team's strength. If the application requires a database that performs 5 times faster than what the infrastructure team provisioned, the application, no matter how elegant the code, will fail to deliver that beauty. Collaboration across those interfaces is the final guarantee of functional integrity.
All right, let's shift now to a very specialized role that embodies the highest form of disciplined thought. This is the pillar of wisdom, the wisdom to contrive and design. We're looking at programmers, especially those who specialize in maintaining the rock-solid stability and automation of core systems, which are often legacy systems.
This is a really interesting philosophical advancement in the whole architectural mission. We're moving beyond the physical tools, the square and the level used by the masons, to the purely rational tools of the geometrician.
The geometrician.
Their work is less about physical components and more about the elegant design of the processes and the workflows. They are designing what the sources call the moral edifice of knowledge, where morality is defined by efficiency and reliability.
So what does that actually look like day to day for the person doing the work?
It means rigorously applying software engineering principles to operational challenges. Their scope is fundamentally about software simplicity and automation.
So they're engaged in this philosophical pursuit of perfection.
Yes, but they find that perfection through simple, repeatable, and non-magical designs. Their primary duty, which ties directly into this pursuit of moral wisdom, is eliminating toil.
Okay, let's define toil. For anyone not familiar with the SRE definition, toil is manual, repetitive, tactical work that scales linearly with service size and, critically, has no enduring value. So why is getting rid of it so crucial?
Because toil is explicitly seen as wasteful. It consumes valuable human attention, the same attention that's needed for strategic design and improvement, and most importantly, it introduces human error.
The human is the least reliable component.
Always. The geometrician transforms those chaotic manual processes, the endless checklists and troubleshooting steps, into autonomous, reliable systems that provide enduring value. That transformation is the very definition of applied wisdom.
It's the pursuit of certainty. And that certainty leads to their ultimate goal. They strive for the virtue of boring, which really runs counter to the culture in a lot of IT organizations that are always chasing the latest, shiniest tool.
It does. But in operational programming, boring means predictable. It means stable and easily understood. It means the code does exactly what it's supposed to do every single time, without fuss, without incident, and without needing some heroic intervention.
So when you look at an automation script written by a true geometrician,
You just feel a sense of calm inevitability, not excitement. Excitement means complexity, and complexity means risk. Certainty achieved through elegant simplicity is the ultimate form of wisdom in this domain.
let's talk about the modern tools the geometrician uses to achieve this repeatability. We're talking about scripting languages like Perl, Python, or Ruby, right?
Or even modern declarative languages like YAML for configuration management. These tools are the mechanism to enforce repeatability, scalability, and typo-free execution.
Because if an operator has to type 20 commands every time they do a system health check.
They will make a mistake.
Yeah.
Eventually. The programmer writes a script once, encapsulates all the best operational knowledge and wisdom into it, and then guarantees flawless execution in perpetuity. This shifts the whole focus from repetitive execution to disciplined design.
And this focus on automation is basically mandated now by the modern requirement to scale efficiently. I'm thinking of the SRE principle that operations work has to scale sublinearly with service size.
Absolutely. If the underlying service grows 10 times larger, you can't justify needing 10 times more staff just to support it. The automation has to absorb that growth.
It's a force multiplier.
A huge one. The programmer's work acts like a compiler. They do the complex analysis and decision-making once, they encode it, and then they can reuse that decision set infinitely. This removes the daily operational stress. They are the ultimate architects of efficiency, using their wisdom to make the temple self-maintaining.
Which allows the human intendants to focus on true novelty and incident response.
Instead of toil.
Yeah. So if you're out there right now and you're writing a script to automate some routine task that has plagued your team for months, just remember this. You are not just saving 10 minutes a day. You are contributing to the foundational wisdom of the entire service value system. You're making the whole structure stronger and freeing up human capacity for a higher purpose. That's a pretty serious job.
It really is. And now we arrive at the front line. This is the professional who ensures the day-to-day stability, the constant vigilance, and the immediate, disciplined response to any crisis. This is your mainframe operator, your NOC specialist, or the general incident manager.
So in our metaphor, this role acts as the intendant of the building. They are the active governors of the workflow, standing vigilant at the operational center, if the geometrician contrives the solution.
The intendant watches, enforces, and reacts to keep the whole machine running. Their scope is focused very heavily on deliver and support and rigorous monitoring and event management.
They're the first and last line of defense against incidents and service interruptions.
They are. During operational hours, they are the guardian of the sanctum sanctorum, tasked with ensuring the highest possible level of availability.
And availability is the metric that really defines the entire value of the temple. If it's not available, it doesn't matter how wise, strong, or beautiful it is.
Not at all. And to maintain it, they require the ultimate discipline of focus. They have to use their deep knowledge of the system's behavior, the known failure modes, the expected load cycles, the threshold settings, to prevent the entire system from collapsing into chaos.
It's a demanding job. because it requires the operator to distinguish between noise and genuine signals. They're constantly prioritizing, responding to pages, interpreting alerts.
And using dashboards to confirm all the critical indicators are green. But the real challenge is filtering the noise. You might get 500 alerts in a day. The operator has to have the wisdom to know which one of those 500 is the genuine existential threat.
Let's talk about that moment of crisis. The moment an indicator turns red, this is where the intendant's preparation is really put to the test.
When disaster strikes, they have to exercise rational, focused, and deliberate cognitive functions. They cannot rely on panic or guesswork. This is why the sources stress the importance of ritual and established procedure.
Performing every act as if it were the last.
Yes, they have to execute their procedures flawlessly because in a high-stakes environment, a major financial transaction system, and emergency dispatch service, there may not be a second chance to recover from a poorly executed response.
And this focus on unwavering control and discipline, it extends into their preventative duties too, which are all summarized under the big umbrella of change control.
Strict adherence to change control procedures is maybe the most important discipline the operator enforces. The operator ensures that no one introduces unauthorized, untested, or high-risk changes that might compromise the structure's stability.
They're the gatekeepers.
They are the gatekeepers. They maintain the controlled environment.
It's often said in IT that you're more likely to take down a system with a scheduled change than by a spontaneous failure.
That's usually true.
So the intendant understands that the greatest risk to the strength, wisdom, and beauty of the building is often a well-intentioned but unsanctioned alteration.
It's the constant tension between agility and stability. The operator sits right at that fulcrum, using their deep knowledge of historical failures and established procedure to manage that tension. They're ensuring that the promise of continual improvement doesn't accidentally turn into chaos.
The intendant is the watchful eye.
The watchful eye that guarantees the SVS remains available to the world moment by moment.
So if you are that listener and you're watching those monitors right now, prioritizing tickets, enforcing procedures, and confirming system health, you are the watchful overseer. You provide the critical real-time vigilance that translates all those static principles of wisdom, strength, and beauty into a dynamic, available service.
So I think what we hope we've conveyed today is that regardless of your specific specialization, whether you're debugging a DB2 instance, provisioning immutable infrastructure, writing a Python script, or responding to a critical page,
It doesn't matter.
it doesn't. Every single IT professional contributes directly to the overall service value system.
It really is all part of the same grand spiritual edifice. And the defining characteristic that unites all of these specialized artificers, geometricians, and intendants, from the programmer to the infrastructure specialist to the recovery expert, is the absolute requirement for maintaining unwavering integrity and discipline. They have to apply the square and the plumb rule to their own specialized craft, making sure everything is true and level and aligned with the architectural principles.
And the profound result of all this collective, specialized, and disciplined work is the creation of a resilient, trustworthy, and valuable service that's provided to humanity. And the sources call this, I think profoundly, the temple of the soul.
Every specialized act, every perfectly installed component, every line of simple, elegant code, every single tested recovery plan, it all helps weld mankind into what the sources call a great league of sympathy and service.
It's beautiful.
It is. You're not just closing a ticket. You're actively contributing to the engine that enables global commerce and communication and human connection. Your operational discipline has real social and economic meaning.
And this brings us back to our final and I think provocative thought for today. It circles right back to the unique nature of this digital structure. The ancient temple was completed and it was later destroyed. It accepted a fixed lifespan.
Right.
But the modern IT temple must be in a state of perpetual construction. It's always undergoing continual improvement. It is, by its very definition, never finished.
So if our daily work is supposed to embody these fixed foundational principles, wisdom, strength, and beauty, what does it truly mean to apply a fixed, almost ritualistic discipline? The rigorous adherence to RTOs, to change control, to tested scripts, to a digital service that is never completed.
How does that permanent state of mutability and continual building change our definition of perfection in IT? Perfection isn't a final state. It's not a place you arrive where you can just declare the project complete.
So what is it?
It must be the continuous, disciplined movement toward an ever-receding horizon of improvement. The quality of our temple is not defined by its completion, but by the unwavering quality of the journey itself.
Something to mull over as you contemplate your next architecture review or your next automation script. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
So see you next time.